Okay, y'all, let's talk politics. We're gonna wait for someone to chime in, and then I can get everything going. Sorry, a couple times I tried to actually chime in and get people, guests in. Difficulties learning stuff daily. So, I'm waiting on a few more people to come in, and we're gonna start having this conversation. Okay, waiting on a few more people to actually chime in so we can have this conversation. I might have a few issues. I am out. Hopefully not. Let me see. KO. Okay, I see it. Let me see. Add into this.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey.
Right.
Is that working? All right, hold on 1 second. I got All right. It's a little better.
Okay, I can see you, but I can't see you. So I'm clearing my lens off, but it's dark where you're at.
It's dark where I'm at.
Yeah, I can't see you. I don't know if anybody else that's chimed in, if they can see.
I don't know. Hold on. I'll pull it up on my laptop real quick. I just saw let me see. Double check. Facebook.
You know me, I'm always on the move. I have an active scene currently in front of me.
Oh my gosh.
Exactly.
Yeah. Where are you at?
You already know. There's always something at the 1500.
All right, I'm online. I'm on Facebook right now. My camera is being seen. So we're good.
Okay. Oh, so Candace say she can see both of us. Candace McPherson say she can see us.
Yeah, I see.
Okay. Well, that's good. So I wanted to have a conversation um, on, do you think that we get what we pay for? And I hate to say that, but it just pretty much is what it is. Do we get what we pay for as it relates to city council elected officials, from mayors as as a whole? And with you previously being on city council, seen a lot of different things that transpired. And people still want you back, just because of some of the things that is currently going on, and just a different change of leadership. So when we talk about the pay as it relates to that, we're looking at the mayors here get paid what, less than what, 50,000 or something like that. I'm not sure.
I think when I left, when I was leaving the last term, I was on city council. It was about $50,000. I think when you with they off the number they often publish is total compensation. So the media usually includes the amount the city, for instance, pays for your health insurance or your unemployment insurance. Those types of things get included. But when it comes to wages, when I left, city council was making about $29,000 a year, all in before taxes, and the mayor was, I believe, it was about 39.
Wow.
I know it's increased a little bit. I think since I've left, the manager has tied council member compensation to the county commissioner compensation. So it's a little bit more than it has historically been, but it is certainly nowhere near a living wage for council members. So you figure the median income in Charlotte for a family of four is about $100,000. You know, that's how rents are. Are figured out. We all know how difficult it is. So the way it's set up, your city council or mayor really need a second stream of income or multiple streams of income, or be in a place where they have independent wealth to be able to support their living while they serve. So it really isn't a job that many people can do. Honestly, if they're wage workers or if they're high earning workers, how do you support you know, life on a $30,000 a year job in Mecklenburg County? I do think you get what you pay for because of that.
So with that, so that goes back to leadership. So when you look at a city manager or a county manager, they get paid a good little bit of money, and they're more behind the scenes, and they're doing private deals that a lot of the community people don't even know, the regular citizens. So we look at the mayor as the focal point or the person that we charge to do something, but in reality, it's really the city manager. So when you're looking at the amount of money that a city manager gets paid, anywhere roughly to four, five, well, what, 4 to
Half a
450.
million dollars a year, about half a million
Yes.
dollars a year.
So when you're looking at that amount of money that that actual person is getting, and they're making the, I say, secret deals or private deals behind the scenes, and you have the mayor that is on the front end that's getting paid crumbs. I mean, I think what you want to look at maybe the same amount of money somebody as a general manager maybe working at McDonald's. If that, I'm not taking away from that job because the job is a job, so don't get it twisted. I'm just looking at the aspect of a lot of decision making that's made for the amount of money and the responsibility. So when you're looking at a person that's in that type of role and they have this actual responsibility of populated at over what, 500,000 people, maybe more. We're not going to look at this. You get what I'm saying? So when you're looking at that, how can we expect, and it's just me thinking outside the box, me as a voter, how can we actually start getting what we pay for? Because there's salaries and stuff like that, all of that, the taxpayers, we pay for a lot of different things. And these are the people that we're putting in positions to make decisions for us. And on top of them making the decisions for us, some of the decisions can displace a lot of people.
That's right.
So when you're looking at that, how does that work when they're not in those rooms to make decisions properly because they have to make sure there are certain needs need to be met. Not unless there's someone that comes from a family of money, then they should be at every meeting. Not unless they're running their own company that requires them to be there. So how do we fix that, or how can we advocate properly for that? Where in reality, like I say, a city manager is getting like, $500,000, and the mayor is the one that we're constantly cussing out.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. So that's a so there's a lot there, and there's a lot of good questions. So what I really learned while I was up there, and I didn't think about government like this until I got up there. But what you got to think about government is it's a corporation, right? It's a government
Mhm.
entity, but it's a corporation. Like it's quite literally set up under the Secretary of State as a business entity, and and the form of governance over that corporation. At the head of that is the city council, right? The city council acts as the board of trustees, for example, the board of trustees of a company, right? The board of trustees' job is to listen to the shareholders, which in our case is the voters and the taxpayers, to create policies and create outcomes, for the product that corporation produces. In this case, it's governance, right? Because the corporation is a government corporation. So we have the board of trustees, i.e., the city council, has to create policies that guide the organization for the outcomes that are expected. And then it is the CEO's job, which is the manager, to achieve the goals and outputs that the board of trustees, i.e., the city council, has made clear. And it is supposed to be the mayor's job, like they might be called a president or something, like the company president or a corporation's president. Their job is to take, again, the desires of the board and go make the outside relationships, i.e., the community members, other corporations, right, to buy into achieve those goals. And so the mayor doesn't set those expectations. The manager doesn't set those expectations, but it is the city council. But when you have a city council who has to figure out how to be read up on all of the city's responsibilities, so you have to figure out how to become an expert in housing, in economic development, in providing municipal services, in transportation, in transit. Oh, you also got to make sure that you're taking care of the constituent services of the people that call when their trash doesn't get picked up, and all of these priorities of individual neighborhoods. Well, that takes a lot of time and resources if you want to your board to actually create the policies in the time and the time limits that our shareholders expect. They have to be on that job 24/7, 365. There really isn't enough time, even if you spent all day on it, to deal with everything.
Seems that way.
Yeah, to deal with everything. So this is especially true if you have to go to another job, right? Or you have to work several different jobs, right? So those decisions still have to be made, but you might not have the time to put the work in to make sure, like, those T's are crossed and those I's are dotted. Make sure that there's no poison pills that are put into the suggestions that are coming from staff or outside of the community that you rely on when you don't have the time or resources to do the work on your own. This can be changed, honestly, with a stroke of a pen. If city council decided to do this, they can change it tomorrow. But of course, there is incredible amount of political blowback that you can face in doing that, because all people see is city council gave themselves a raise, or they gave the mayor a raise, and the numbers are not actually kind of put in there for people to deal with. People are very surprised when you tell them that you're not making a wage that can pay the bills, in the 14th largest city in the country. So that is something that the city council can do, but of course the people of the community have to give them the support when they do that. So we get people that we would like to be in those positions and deserve.
So with that, and like you say, it's at a stroke of a pen. So that make me think about when you have the housing authority board, or community relations executives, or things of that nature. When you start looking at the amount of pay that they get to do certain things, that plays a major part when you looking at the type of person you want representing you again. So if you want somebody, we're voters, so we're going out and we're voting, whether it's for our city council, for our county commission, and for our mayors, or anybody. We're going to get really what we pay for if we have a situation where Someone's like you said, they have to go work. They have to because they have to make ends meet. It's things that they have to do. They have to take care of their own basic needs. We we can't have you advocating for us to not be displaced and you putting yourself in a situation to be displaced. That's not a
Exactly.
balance. You see what
Exactly.
I'm saying? And I don't think people really rationalize that. So it's very important when we're voting, whether it's city council, county commissions, we have to stop. We as voters have to stop voting off likes. We have to stop voting because I like you. We have to start looking at the people that are seated, looking at what they advocate for, what policies they put in place. You know, what are they championing for? You know, as it relates to their community.
Hmm.
Are you meeting their basic needs? We could talk about roads, we could talk about trains, buses, we could talk about a lot, but we still have to look at the layers to where we're positioning people. And if a person isn't really getting paid enough money,
Hmm.
but these are the people that we are putting in position to make decisions for our everyday living.
Correct.
Something has to change.
Yeah.
So even like say going back with the mayor. So if it's something that can be done, we don't have no say so on the amount of money that's coming out of our pockets to pay a city manager that's making $500,000. So you see what I'm saying? So that's a
So,
conversation that I think we all need to know how to navigate that conversation. Who is the people that, if it's the voters, what do the voters need to do? Because if paying is causing us to have a lot of, I'm going to say offsets as it relates to a lot of different things, when you're looking at layers,
hmm.
we need to find out a way to come to a common ground. What is it that you would say or suggest? And I'm just throwing something out just for someone being previously on council. What is it that you would say that us as voters need to do? And it's not about the current mayor, but we're saying for future mayors. So we can make sure that we're getting the right representation, not someone that's going to be rubbing too many elbows. We don't need that. That's been a problem that's wrong with our politics now. And even with the layers of the board, you may can answer this question. And if you don't want to answer the question, just say, I'm not going to touch that. And I can respect that.
Yeah.
But with Mecklenburg County as a whole, not even being owned by no one in the States and a foreign entity owns it, how much does that play a part with a lot of the stuff that goes on with the layers of government, meaning um, the bare minimum of the pay that the,
Oh,
the
it
board is
has
getting, if that
a
makes
lot.
sense?
It has a lot to do with it. So first of all, this is not just a Charlotte or Mecklenburg issue, right? This is a North Carolina issue, and this is really a democracy issue all around the country, right? One of the reasons why I don't think people are necessarily happy with the representation that they have in Raleigh is because, again, a lot of people are precluded from being able to do that. They make $13,000 a year, right? And so again, you can't do that if you're a wage earning worker, right? Um, so you don't get the type of representation that you're able to do. Look, I took the job. I went and took the job. Obviously, knew what I was getting myself into. I got elected when I was 34 years old. And I was in my career path. I work in the entertainment business, and I've been working in there for the past, the past decade. But I was just entering, the prime earning years of my career, right?
Wow.
But of course, I think everybody on this feed knows why I did it, and what inspired me to do it. It was a higher calling, right, than my own personal issues. And I knew that while it wasn't necessarily the right time in my life to take on this, it was well worth the sacrifice, right? And I took the job. I take any job to do it well. And I knew that in order for me to do it well, I had to show up. I had to listen to the community. I had to be in meetings, right? Like in different offices, asking folks in that building that were experts in things like land use and building water systems, and I had to be there and ask people questions and know what I'm talking about to be able to take on positions and give you guys out there suggestions. I was able to do that by making incredible personal sacrifices, right, financially, and making my family make incredible sacrifices. But I was also able to do that because I work in an industry where I can take gigs, right? I can say no to one concert that's coming because I know that there might be one that works better for me later in the future. But if I was not able to do that, I would not have really been able to do the job of being a representative, a leader in government to the way that you guys would want me, to be. And when it became clear that I was not going to be able to keep that level up in terms of that sacrifice, that Duke Energy wasn't accepting that. I had to reestablish, how I was going to continue to do the work of the people, and that meant that I was not able to be on city council. Right, it meant that I couldn't work on everything, but I'm having to choose lanes to work on, and I know that there are tons of people I've talked to over the year. From working class backgrounds, folks that earn wages, that just as they do the math with their families, they don't know how they'll survive, so they don't go into public service. You even think about the other echelon, right? We have plenty of business leaders who have been incredibly successful, and we could probably use in leadership positions of a $4 billion a year organization. But they're not going to do it either because they can't even keep a semblance of lifestyle, So you basically don't have people on both ends of the spectrum who might have the tools that the community wants and desires, but they're not adding themselves, to be considered because they simply can't afford it. I don't think that's fair to the people. And there's a very easy and clear way to change that. You pay people the amount of money that allows them to pay rent or a mortgage and pay the bills and put food on the table. It's. I also think it's strange when the city is asking other corporations to do that same thing, but they're not willing to kind of they're not willing to lead by example. So I think it's something that a conversation that we have to have over these years as we're considering the type of leadership that we want in these very important positions. Status quo is not sufficient.
Yeah, and that's where I'm kind of at too, and it's like, and I think that's why so many people are not rushing to the polls and wanting to vote is because of either the candidates or some of the ones that is challenging some of the current, and it start being tiring. So me being out hitting doors, knocking on doors, they have issues with leadership, but then they like, well, I don't know much about the next. So when you're looking at that and you just get people just switching parties, it's kind of like, where are we at? You get what I'm saying? How do we separate what we identify as good leadership versus the sound bite? Because
Yeah.
anybody can. It's almost like Facebook. You can be whoever you want to be on Facebook.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And the thing is, being in government, you have to put in work to do things well. In a democracy, I believe in our democracy, and I do believe that you should have voices of the people there. But therefore, you're not necessarily going to have, again, experts at water systems or fighting fires or ensuring public
right,
safety or these other things. But you need those people to get, and there's nobody out there that is experts on all of those things at once.
right,
But you need people that are willing to do the work to get to a level of understanding to make the decisions that you trust, right? That can explain these things, and that simply takes a lot of work. And time, effort,
So,
and
so if you look at the layer, so we hear work and we hear the word work and we know it entails of a lot. But for a voter, a person that's not into politics, just know they got to vote.
mm-hmm.
When you're looking at the leadership, can you kind of give a breakdown, like from, if you want to say, here is your district representative and your at-large representatives. So we could start with the at-large.
Yeah,
So when you're looking at that, at-large is everybody. So they're not bound down to no particular district.
yeah,
What is the actual real role? Because me on the outside looking in, I see a lot of county issues going to city issues when it's not a city issue, it's a county issue. And county, they don't really take hits as much as city council as they should from certain things, from mold being in houses. But I do understand that you do have a housing committee that's on the city council side, and they can make certain recommendations. They can go to city council, go to county commission. And I think that's a part there, putting the proper people on certain committees, even though they're elected, making sure you're getting the right person on those committees, not someone that wants to buy up properties in different areas or have their own hidden agenda. You have to have someone that is on their committee that knows the people, for the people, that is going to make sure they're doing right by the people.
yeah,
So, especially people not knowing a lot, because residents don't know the difference from county to
yeah,
city. They just know that they have an issue,
yeah.
and the first person they're gonna think of, Braxton, you on city council, you at large. My issue is this, and you looking like all of that has nothing to do with me. But I'll help you through that process. You get what I'm saying? But
Exactly. So
how do
that's
we
good.
fix that?
Well, but that I think one, Miko, pull the camera out a little bit. It's zooming you in for some reason when you, yeah, you
I
go.
don't know why it's doing it.
So, no, but the point that you bring up, the scenario that you bring up is a perfect example because it happens all the time. People, that's the thing. People don't um, always know the differences, and honestly, part of if you want to get a little deeper, that's part of why they set up so many different levels of government. When if you don't want your constituencies to necessarily get the efficient answer, you add
Mm,
more offices that they have to go to to deal with their issue. So that's a whole other bag right there. But you're right, because I used to get this is the way I can speak from my own experience, right? People would come
okay,
to me all the time, right, for issues that they have, because when they want help, they go to the people they know. You
right.
learn about your mayor, you learn about your city council, so you go to them for help. And you're right. Oftentimes they were coming to me for things that were not under the city's purview. But I ran my office to say, never tell anybody that this wasn't our responsibility. Go somewhere else. We'll say, this is not something that we deal with, or we don't deal with this part, but they do in that other office, right?
Right.
Let me help you get in contact with that person, and let's see what we can do from our purview. I'll get my staff to work on those things, but you're probably going to have to go somewhere else. But I'll get you in contact. Let's keep in touch to see how we work together. That is something only an elected official can do, right? Staff cannot do those things. So if, for instance, if my staff member who supported me in the city gets something that should be a health and human services issue at the county commission, by policy, by law, they can't go into that realm, right? Even if they send an email to somebody in the county office, it's not going to be prioritized, or it's going to be,
Mm,
wrong setup, it's, they'll say something like, well, that person has to come into us. You know what I'm saying? So it's set up
right.
by policy to create these hard walls. The only people that can really operate outside of the policy, again, are your elected officials. So this is where the structure of government comes in. The city staff, which the city manager is the lead of, can only operate within the walls of the law and existing policy. So if you want new solutions, you have to have people in those elected positions that are going to think outside the box.
Mm,
But in order for those people in those elected positions to be able to think about out the box, they have to learn what's in their box and what's in other people's box. And that's where the work comes in, right? That's where the work comes in between the meetings. That's where the work comes in that people don't see those elected leaders doing, or those elected leaders just aren't doing, because that's not technically their job. So the scenarios that you spoke of, especially in North Carolina, when we have the county commission, the city council, the school board, but then you have soil and water, you have, regional transportation system, CRTPO, and those things. If you don't have that elected official that is weaving those things together, it just won't happen by themselves. And increasingly, I think a lot of people realized this during COVID, about how many different systems we rely on and how disconnected a lot of them are on. But only your elected officials have the real authority and ability to do the things and create the process that are necessary to marry those things together, so citizens can just come to one office and be on their way with the answers, actions that they need in their own lives. Sorry, that was a
So
lot, I know.
no, that's good information. So my next question would be, well, how close do county commission and city council work? So when there are issues from residents like that, how does it work with, like you say, just doing that connect, whether it's through an email or whether it's saying, well, let me call this person that I know that's on county commission, let them know your issue. Who is your district rep? So if they're not getting what they need, so how close do y'all, or at that time, or just in general, do they work hand in hand to help make that process smoother? Or is it more like, if they don't reach out, I don't want to do it, because they really don't want to do the work?
Yeah, I don't want to say people don't want to do the work. What I will say is that when you do try to do it, you realize that there are a lot of structures that make doing
Mm,
that work difficult to impossible. And there's a lot of
mm,
issues. So I will say that there is no real. So if you think, there is no real table, there's no intergovernmental table where, for instance, the county and city can sit down and do work, just general. There are some
right.
intergovernmental entities that work on specific things, but there is no place as a city council member where I can say, hey, let's go work with the county commission and officially or to figure things out. That doesn't exist. There's honestly, to go back to the question that you asked before, it's even difficult from an at-large position with the county issues. There are different, while you all have the same responsibilities, people look to both of those positions in different kind of ways, right? Those district reps are
Right.
going to, they're expected by their neighborhood organizations to be present and to understand everything that's going.
I think the phone is kind of like going in and out, or I think the signal might have some issues. Can you hear me? Do anybody still hear Braxton? You can still hear him, Jackie? Because I don't even see him or hear him. As long as y'all can hear him, that's fine. You can't, me either. So I don't know. Um, Braxton, if there's a way you might can like go out and come back in, we can try it again. Because I know I can't hear you at all, and Jackie says she can't hear it either. So maybe we'll get him to come back in, guys. Okay, so Braxton's gonna leave and he's gonna come back in, and once he comes back in, we'll continue this conversation. Okay, I think he's back. Waiting for him to go in. He's
There we
back.
there we go.
I don't know what happened. So
I got a phone call and I think it just screwed everything on my phone up. But yeah,
it'll
what
do that.
I was saying, even when I got there, even from a at large to district uh, um, perspective,
Hmm.
we got in there. A lot of us young folks, we got in there and we're like, okay, where do we work? How do we do this?
Right.
And people were surprised when we were showing up at the office, on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, having meetings up there. You might hear existing council members who have been around for a while. They talk about, yo, well, we missed meeting in the hallways before meetings on Monday, and this, that, and the other. Well, that was really the only place that people interacted
Wow.
in the past, and that just simply isn't sufficient. So, you know, I used to have to get in the habit of, anytime somebody called me about specific district issues, make sure I'm CCing their district rep on things, giving them a call,
Right.
throughout the week to get smarter about things. Especially when I was mayor pro tem, I
Right.
made sure that, I tried to make sure that I called council members every week to go over the agendas. Well, not necessarily to lobby them on where to go, but to understand what the council was thinking about, so we can deal with these issues and create some type of order around that. But that was something that was not done regularly, right? And again, because it takes a lot of work. It
Right.
takes a
Right.
lot of work. It takes a lot of work to have 11 different conversations, before you even start to get onto your issues. You know what I'm saying? To
Right.
start thinking about those things. So, um, the we have a government that has helped to grow a city into one of the most important cities in the world, but we haven't taken care to create the systems that that sufficiently deal with the challenges that growth presents. And it's because, I think part of it is because we've relied on what people call that Charlotte way.
Right.
Those old white guys in smoky rooms and making those deals.
Right.
And people don't really realize what is necessary in changing that. You really do have to change the way the whole thing is set up. Um, and that's going to take, again, like I said, it can be done actually relatively quickly.
Right.
But the people who are in those positions, i.e. the city council, needs the political support from the community to get those things done, and the understanding. So I appreciate you inviting me to have this conversation about it, because it's your
Yeah.
audience that is going to be so important in making that happen.
Yes, and that's the thing, is just like trying to get the right people in the room, or whether it's me organizing, or whether it's somebody else that's following the life that want to, organize. Because we can't again have y'all on council advocating for livable wages and y'all not making a decent wage. So that's almost like a spit in the face to me. Um, that you have to stretch yourself thin, that takes away from your own personal, that takes away from your family. So, and I appreciate you and I thank you for even, considering it and doing it as long as you did. And I have much respect for your kids. And I know it's a lot of sacrifices, of missed games, anything that they was into, recitals and things of that nature, having to make sure that you look out for over 500,000 people. So when you're looking at that, I appreciate that. And I commend you for, allowing us to snatch you and be selfish from your family. I appreciate that. I do. And, we would love to have you back. We would love. So just saying, just a little conversation, but, let it marinate. But I understand, that's why I asked, do we really get what we pay for. And I think that a lot of people don't really understand
Yeah.
the layers to the work, and how much work. And
Yeah.
again, I think, like you say, for me, like I'm saying, if we're not owned and it's another entity that's owning, it's not much that we really can do. But us out in the community need to know what to do, because when we're looking at leadership and we have these different people in these shared spaces having conversations about what's going to affect us, like this 1% sales tax. I don't know your take on it, what's your stance on it, but I have, a lot of questions. And this is for me, as a lot of different people bring information to me. Um, I try to get the best information to them, so they'll know what they're doing, because, we can talk about a penny, but a penny can do a lot.
Well,
So,
I think that's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. So I am personally, well, I'm completely for transit, and we
gotcha.
we are way behind. But I don't think this bill is going to provide the solutions that we need. I think it's going to be highly when you raise taxes, sales tax by 14%, and that's what that's what that does when you move from a 7.25 percent sales tax to an 8.25% sales tax. That's a 14% increase in taxes. And if you do that, sometimes governments have to raise revenues, and transit is a worthy, but you better provide the services and resources that counteract that. This bill does not do that, right? Because it's not
Hmm.
a penny to transit. It's gotten broken up in a way that I disagree with. But a big part of, I think, why we're here is because city council and the mayor weren't leading those discussions. They were not leading those
Mm,
negotiations, right? Like they let the business community
gotcha.
handle that work. And a big reason was because a lot of work would have had to happen for city council to lead those conversations. You would have had to leave Charlotte and go and build relationships in different
Mm,
communities, right? You have to go into Union County, you have to go into Iredell County, into Gaston County, you have to go into all these places, go up to Raleigh, right? On top of all of the other specific work, within the week to week work of city council, to effectively do that over time. And logically speaking, not a lot of council members had the ability to do that, right? Because it's a part-time job, and you have to do
right,
other things to maintain. So when they're not at the table, when the voice of the people are not at the table, other voices have to be used to fill the void. And I think that's what happened here. You have a very business friendly bill that is going to do what it needs to do for the business community, but it's going to displace a lot of people. And I'm not faulting the business community, because they're doing what was asked of them by their city council and their part-time city council and their part-time mayor. So we were absent. The voice of the people was actually absent in a lot of this, and I think it shows. So that's why this is very important for your day to
right.
day stuff, but especially for these big generational decisions that your elected leaders have to make.
Wow. So with that, that just sounds like almost like we're going to relive another Brooklyn.
It's absolutely will be,
And so
and
that's not, it's not good.
I don't think so, from my view. But again, we'll let's talk about that. I think, but that's
That's a
I think
starting, but yeah,
this
we
starting,
yeah.
yeah.
But
Well,
we do need to figure out the best way, again, like I say, when we looking at, are we getting what we're paying for? So,
and I say we
um,
are. I mean, that's part of the reason why the city is
yeah,
going to get behind this, because all of a sudden, this bill says, you know what, we actually don't have to worry about transit anymore. It's going to be given to this authority, so it's not even going to be our thing anymore.
wow,
So it's one less thing that we have to deal with. So, but that means it's going to be one step of another level of accountability that citizens are going to have to figure out. How do they approach this new part of the government that isn't elected,
wow,
and that they have no say over? On top of it, we don't even have a plan that is sufficient for today, let alone what's coming tomorrow. So, I want 12 people up there who are working on that day in and day out, and not necessarily going to, having to split
Right.
time with another corporation that might have different priorities than the people in my community.
So it seems like if that's the case, that means there's no stakeholders in the community or any of the community is possibly going to be compromised. Seem like they're not having no voice at the table.
Yes, yes, exactly, exactly. When you're
Uh,
elected representatives, whether you like them or not, they're your voice.
right.
And when they're not at the table, you're not at the table. And you can, again, you can, not to say those staff members that work for the city, they're there. But they cannot operate. They have to operate within boxes, and that's not. That's,
So
to me,
when
that's
I'm thinking, so when you say they got to operate in the box, I'm going to go out the box. So that assistant is going to determine how well they can articulate politics and what they're in the room to process.
that's right.
So if they don't really know a lot about transit, railroads, highways, community. You get what I'm saying? Just whatever. If they are just there to only do, I'm just going to say clerical secretary, let me get some notes, let me get some things and tell you some suggestive input. Their input might not be the correct input. And it's not taken away from the assistants, but I'm just saying it also is going to depend on the level of education, what they have to go in that shared space.
For instance, this transit plan, right? It
Yes.
does. They didn't engage CMS, right? So nobody is thinking about how the communities connect to the bus, connect to schools via buses or public transportation, right? Nobody approached CMS to integrate them. Nobody talked about, okay, we're going to hire 200 bus drivers, right, to drive these new buses that we're going to put on the city tracks. Nobody thought about where those bus drivers are going to come from. They're going to come from school buses, So CMS is already having trouble hiring school bus drivers. So when another horde of them go over to CATS buses because they're paying more, how are those kids going to get to school? Well, staff, it's not staff's it's not within staff's purview to worry about the school system, right? Because that's not the city's responsibility. But that's my job as an elected official to
Right.
say, hey, there's something going on here. We need to
Right.
bring in the school board members. Here's my school board member with me. Let's talk about how to make this work. That never happened. And so you have policy policies that, like you said, only operate within that box. They don't think outside the box. We know our lives are not contained to any neat little box, which is why you need effective leadership that's able to kind of go out and bring more things into that box and vice versa, if that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. It opens up the minds to a lot. I think a lot of people need to do their homework when they're voting, and I think they need to get a little bit more educated on. And I know sometimes it's kind of hard, and so I think the charge should be the neighborhood associations making sure that they're actually properly representing the people in their community. We have a lot of neighborhood associations. You have 5 people that's coming to meetings, and you got one person that they feel like, oh, this is a good front person. They're making a lot of decisions for over 300,000 people, and then the people in the community is looking like, wait a minute, what is this? Why is that? And that's not good. So I think making sure um, these neighborhood, I think that should be something too. They got neighborhood services, so I think they should be really charging those neighborhood associations to really do what they need to do versus not just looking at what they said. How much data did they bring back to confirm that that is what the community needs? Did they show you a survey? Did they show you signatures? Did they tell you that they broke down some different sections and somebody canvassed the neighborhood and asked that? So I think when we're looking at real raw data, we got to really look at real data, not a pop-up shop talking about one thing and it's another. And you get someone and you say, hey, this is what we did. We had a little window of conversation, but not a real conversation.
Right.
I think that is a big problem as a whole too. But for us on the outside, what would you charge us to do, like community leaders, stakeholders, pillars in the community, organizers, grassroots organizations? Like, what is it that you would charge us to do to make sure that that's what is properly being done? Because if we're getting what we're paying for, then we're not
Yeah.
satisfied. We can't even get a refund.
Yeah, no, you can't. No refunds here, no takebacks. But you do get choices, and you do get to change every couple years. I think it's simple. Is I think you pay your elected officials so that they can focus on the job, and then they can pay their bills. They can live in the city of Charlotte. We have all the data that shows it. You can tie it to AMI or median cost of living.
Hmm.
It doesn't have to be anything ridiculous, but if you ensure that people won't be living on, like, we, we know how we get by, right? We put one. We wake up
Rob,
in the morning.
sometimes
We
it's
say,
robbing Peter to
this,
pay
we
Paul. You gotta go
move
work
money
this
from one
job,
pocket
cut
to the
grass.
right.
Yeah, we
Just to
like
balance.
Tommy off
Okay, how
Martin.
many days I got till that cutoff notice? Oh, I'm good.
Right,
You know what I'm saying? That's 2 weeks away. I got this other one. Like,
right.
there's no shame in
Yeah,
understanding how to make it, but you can't run a $4 billion a year organization living like that, and do that well. So you need to pay people the amount of money. And let's be honest, in Charlotte, it's going to be $100,000 or better. Like, and that's nothing. That's nothing compared to a $4 billion a year organization, right?
I
So
agree.
there's resources to do that. Um, and that's what we deserve. And I think you'll see a whole different crop if that happens. I think you'll see a whole different crop of potential leaders showing up, and I think that people will be happier.
So, with that being said, one more question. So, we looked at the county, the city, but how well do all the boards play together when you look into the city and you're looking at the county and you're looking at the CMS board? How do they play a whole part as working together, making sure that, hey, that here's the school issue, here's the county issue, here's the city issue. How can we fix that?
Well, I think, and that's another. I think that there are consolidated forms of government that can work, so that you're going to one place and all these pieces are working together while still having the ability to have you know different towns, because I know that's a
Hmm.
big issue. Like, the towns want their own identity; they don't want it just to be Charlotte, and
Right.
that's fine. So you look at a consolidated system of government, that helps provide that, and really demand it. I really, again, you know the only rationales that I've heard when I was up there, actually, T.R.A.P and I, while we disagree on a lot of things, we were able to identify that we need to be working with the county and school board,
Right.
like thinking about things like workforce development. Like, how can the city do
Right.
workforce development if it's not working with the school system? Like, that doesn't
For
make
sure.
make that doesn't make any sense. But when we did that, we had some buy-in, but some of the some of the gatekeepers were like, no,
Right.
no, no, because it would mess with the money, right? And so we have to be willing to put leaders in there and give them the resources and time, to make some of these big structural changes. And when these ideas come across, let's honestly engage with them as a community, and don't just wait for the hot takes, or the
Right.
headlines that come out. We have to have open up that third eye, right? and
Right.
and
Right.
and really
Right.
understand, like you say, what are we paying for? What do we expect out of it? And how do we judge whether or not, um, we're receiving that?
Okay. Before I close,
Yeah.
so, and this going back to reentry and the shortage in the drivers. Have there ever been? And I've had this conversation before. We have reentry programs. You can get some of these second chance. So a lot of people come home from prison. They get their CDLs. They're driving trucks, and sometimes to get with the good jobs, they want them to have experience at least 3 or 4 years.
Hmm.
So if this is somebody that, depending on the type of crime, I mean, y'all have second chance. A lot of this, like y'all A lot of funding go to nonprofit organizations. Some do good work, some don't. So when you're looking at that, why not create like a second test program that's already up under what you have, that just say, hey, we're going to bond these people and they're going to work. You get what
Mhm.
I'm saying? We're going to bond them and they can work through the second chance. That'll cut back the shortage in drivers. Because, you know, a person might want to drive a bus, but you're going to say, oh, they got too many speeding tickets. But that don't mean all the speeding tickets was violent, or
Yeah,
you know, two or three. You got to look at, if a person got four speeding tickets or five speeding tickets and they've been licensed 20 or 30 years, or even 10 to 15 years, and there's three or four of them, you say, oh no, they're not eligible to drive a bus. You're shortening that window.
yeah,
So you got to look at, if they've been licensed for 15 years and they only got three or four speeding tickets, like realistically, you wouldn't have a shortage. It's like sometimes you got to really think. Now DUIs, no,
yeah.
but you get what I'm saying. It's like things that you can try to find that balance to fill that
Absolutely.
void.
Well, again, you bring up another good point. The city and I know other government entities, second chances and reentry in general are something that this is a perfect example, Miko. Like this is something that we actually do well from a city perspective, but
Hmm.
we could do so much better if we were working across these lines. Like you said, there's some people in certain reentry situations that are just not eligible for certain jobs, but there are plenty that are. And
Right,
we have that in our solid waste, in our Charlotte Water, and our other municipal service positions, that they are reentry ways for people. But what if, you were working together to, as a city, as a county, as a school board, to create a real ecosystem
right,
that you can show our other private employers, right? Other private, because the city of Charlotte is one of the largest employers in the city. So if you can
right,
actually create systems that that you can show the private sector to say, hey, this is working. Now you just need to pour some more gas on this, and we can have this citywide,
right,
countywide, regionally. Then you can really start to see a real change, real measurable change happen in our priority areas. For instance, in reentry. Again, going back to transit and transportation, what if you did have those pipelines of those
right.
CDLs or those mechanics, right? We actually have an
Hmm.
issue with that in the city. People come and get these jobs, get their CDLs and spend a certain amount of time in the city, but then they go into the private sector, and that's good for them, but that hurts the services that we provide. So that's a good problem to have, because those people are
Right, right, right,
experiencing the economic mobility. So how can we supersize that? How can we break the
right,
barriers for the city, county, and school board are working together in those ways? Because those things don't exist. All it takes is somebody, a group of people in those positions, because they have to be in those positions. They can't
right,
just be like me and you right now. They have
right,
to be
right,
in
right.
policy making positions to say, this is the priority. This is what we're going to. This is what is going to happen.
Well, I appreciate that information, and I hope everybody that chimed in, you took advantage of the knowledge that was dropped. And we're going to have another conversation about the transit tax, but that's another deep dive conversation. And Braxton, I'm gonna need you on that as well.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
got
let's
Robert
talk.
coming in on that too. So,
Well, let's talk.
but
Let's not make this the last time, and maybe we can figure out as we lead up to these elections locally, if we can have some more conversations, because it's important. There's a lot of people don't understand. Honestly, even people that have been here for a long time and been engaged in the work. It was funny.
right,
I give you one last example. When I first ran for office, this was 2017. Um, I've had plenty of education in my life, but I never didn't know how the municipal systems work very well.
right, right,
I had some leaders behind me, some people that have been very involved in elections, and some organizations that are very respected politically, can get behind me, especially in our community, in the Black community. I
right.
remember when the meeting.
Braxton, you're going out. You stopped that meeting. I don't know, Jackie. Can you hear him? I didn't mute you. No, I didn't. Well, Braxton, I didn't mute you, but let's try to see. No, it's not. It's not showing that you're muted on my end. He'll turn back in, y'all. My bad. But I hope y'all have actually been informed. Uh, hold on. Wait, no, Braxton to chime back in and saying adding. Think he might be having some network issues. Y'all know when that conversation get good, they don't like it. Y'all know that. Y'all already know sometime when the conversation is juicy, they can't stand it. But either way it go, I hope y'all have been informed and we waiting on him to chime back in and hopefully it'll pick up. Braxton is waiting on you. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe he'll send it back, but I don't know what it's doing. It's waiting on Braxton. Okay, well, maybe he'll do it over. We can try it again for the last time. Okay, y'all. Well, I don't know what it is actually doing and why it's not letting Bryson back in, but I hope y'all will inform. This is not going to be the last time I come back and do another live with a sent request to rejoin. Okay. Okay. I don't see it like I was before. You have to, I guess, try to tap it again because I did it. I don't know what happened. I'm going to send an invite and it's waiting on you to accept it. Okay, there you go. He's back, y'all. There you go.
I don't know what's going on. I gotta. We'll get this set up next time, so that doesn't happen. But sorry about that.
Oh, you're
Whenever
fine. But go ahead and close us out with your story. You're the last.
okay, yeah. So I was yeah. So the week after the
See,
election.
y'all, they don't want Braxton to tell y'all the story. See, when that
so
conversation good, get busy.
uh and what's up? So yeah. So I remember the week
Less
after
issues. But we
the
got y'all.
so yeah. I was elected in
Oh, there you
2017.
go. He's back.
And I had a lot of support.
Go ahead, Braxton.
And can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. And I remember the week after they had a meeting with all of the members that they had endorsed and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I asked the leader of the group, now we won this election because Miko, campaigning is very different than governing. It's different skills, different work.
Your
And I said,
phone
okay.
going out. I heard we won this election and your phone just went all the way out.
So we won the election and we had a meeting with all the endorsed candidates. I was like, okay, how do we talk about
Okay.
now? Now let's talk about getting policy written. Like let's talk about, okay, how do we actually work on the things that we've been talking about? You guys have been part of this for decades. I'm just getting here last year. And they were like, policy discussions. I don't know nothing about that. That's what we elected you for. So you have a lot of people out here,
Wow.
community leaders that are certainly familiar with the political landscape and can tell you about elections, but they can't tell
I
you
think it's going
how to
like in
govern.
and out.
They can't tell you how to. It might be. I think it might be yours too. I'm not sure. I have it pulled up on another screen. It seems like the signal is pretty good. So all that to say, yeah, man, there's a lot of folks out here that might be knowing generally
Mhm.
what's going on, but we don't have a lot of people within our community that understand the policies and systems and how to navigate those systems that govern us and to make the types of changes that the community actually wants. It's a certain language that you have to learn. And when we get good people in there, we want to make sure that we keep them in there. We certainly don't want them not to run because they can't afford
Right.
to run, like many of us.
Well, y'all heard it. So that means us out here, as voters, we got to do what we got to do. We got to make sure they getting good wages because they can't be making decisions for us and they ain't getting paid. Maybe that's why we so jacked up, y'all. But we thank you, Braxton, and we love you, dog.
Thanks, Nico. I appreciate you. Keep doing the work.
Bye. All right, go ahead. We'll
Uh,
talk.
bye.
All right, everybody, we out.